Welcome to the Community Scrutiny Committee meeting tonight. I'd like to pass on the webcast and introduction to Laura, please. Thank you.
I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or another such use by third parties. Therefore, by entering the council chamber and using the seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes.
Thank you, Laura. Could you please take us through item number 2 for apologies for absence, please? Oh, sorry, beg pardon, yes. Welcome to the meeting, everybody. Tonight, Councillor Parson is not available, as you can see, and so I will be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to suggest that I ask Councillor Richard Bassett to be the Vice Chairman for this meeting. So can I ask the committee to agree to that, please? Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to just introduce a few members on the top table here. On my right, obviously, we've just appointed Richard Bassett, our Vice Chairman, and to his right, Laura Kerman from Democratic Services, and Lou Baker, who is webcasting the meeting tonight on the far right. To my left, I have from our legal services, Nicholas Sawyers, Head of Legal and Deputy Monitoring Officer, and to her left is James Warwick, who is the Services Director and Lead Officer for this evening as well. So, thank you. There are other officers and guests in the chamber and online for specific items tonight. And of course, our Chief Executive Officer, Andrew Small, is also joining us online as well. Members, before we start the meeting, I've agreed to change in the running order of the agenda tonight. And item 10, the grounds maintenance update, will be considered after item 7, the planning update. Can members confirm they are happy with that change, please?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Laura, could you please take us through item number 2? Apologies for absence, please.
There are several apologies for absence, Chairman. As you've mentioned, Councillor Parsons has sent his apologies. Councillor Burrows, Allgood and Whitehouse, Janet, have also sent their apologies.
Thank you very much. Are there any substitute members? Oh, I think you already said that. You've mentioned that.
There are substitute members. Yeah. The substitutes are Councillor Jones for Councillor Burrows, Councillor Will Kaufman for Councillor Allgood and Councillor Amos for Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Laura. Item number 4 is declarations of interest. So I look to the members. Are there any declarations of interest, members?
I've got one.
Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Chairman. I declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 10, which is about Qualis and grounds maintenance. Being Chairman of Qualis, I better declare.
Thank you. So item number 5 is notes of the previous meeting. That's on pages 3 to 13. Can the committee agree the notes of the meeting for the 1st of July 2025, which includes the presentation as well? Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. It's an addendum, really. It's something I was going through some bits and pieces, and when it's talking about urban areas of Roydon and Nazing and the glasshouse industry, I remembered I was chairman of the Food Task Force, and we did a big report on the future of the glasshouse industry and how it ties together, and I'm quite willing to send it to the relevant officer.
Thank you. Members, that's for noting. Is that okay to change? Thank you very much. We'll swiftly move on to item number 6, which is the work programme. That's on page 14 for members' information. TFL are scheduled for the 27th of January Meeting and Democratic Services will be circulating requests for your queries to TfL so that these can be coordinated. And as suggested last year, there will be pre-meeting to confirm the approach we will take. Do members have any further comments or proposed amendments on the work programme?
Stephen Murray online.
So first of all, can I look to members first and foremost? Anybody? Councillor Morris.
Oh, yeah, do we know who's going to be attending from TfL? Is it going to be the same people who attended last time?
Thank you, Councillor Morris.
An invite has been sent. We have acknowledged that the committee would like a higher level of representation, but we are at the mercy of TfL, but we are continuing to pursue that.
Thank you, and I believe we've got a question from Councillor Murray, who's online.
It's a comment. Councillor Morris has asked my question. Obviously, we need to still go ahead if they send the level of officer they sent last time. But to be absolutely honest, we'll be wasting our time and going through the motions if we don't get a decent response from TfL in terms of who they send. But I realise we can't actually, dictate. But it will be another waste of time if we get exactly the same level of representation as we did before.
Thank you. Anybody else? I just wanted to say that I was present at the meeting last time round as well, and some of the questions that were raised by our committee were fantastic, and the responses could have been better, and I suppose they'll probably come well prepared this time and probably send somebody more relevant that will be able to answer some of those questions. But yeah, certainly take that on board. Anybody else? No? In which case, item number 7 is the new planning committee structure update, which is located on pages 16 to 21 of your agenda. Members will be pleased to know that Mr. Graham Courtney is online tonight for the planning committee structure update. And whilst he's recovering well, he will not be providing any responses this evening, but will provide responses to any queries members may have in writing after the meeting. In which case, if that's okay with members, with that response, can I invite Councillor Paul Kesker, the Cabinet Portfolio Holder, if he could possibly give us an introduction and an update on the report.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that I think Graham Courtney has written an excellent report. It's full of detail and information, which is what you need. It's really in 3 parts, I suppose. First, what we have done. Secondly is the statistics on all of that. And third is what the government we think will be doing to planning control in the future. So, but as I say, the report is very full, and I hope all of you have had the opportunity to read it, and it should cover, I think, virtually all questions. But I'm happy to be able to answer some, as is Councillor Williamson as well, for policy.
Thank you, Councillor Kesker. I'll go to members first. Members, have you got any comments? Councillor Dadd. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And first of all, I want to say how nice it is that Graham Courtney is with us and we have missed him, and to commend him for this excellent report. There's a few comments I've got to make. Firstly, on page 17, we realise what's coming down the line on the national scheme of delegation, but I'm wondering whether we have any indication on how we can respond to this. Personally, I feel we need to resist the non-involvement of planning committees relating to local information, which is absolutely invaluable, especially as many planning officers live outside the area and don't necessarily make site visits before writing their report. That's based on my own personal experience, recent experience. Some of the policies are subjective, so they do need local information and input. And officers aren't infallible, I'm afraid, although we've got some excellent officers, and I'm really pleased that we've now got a full complement. And I do know that their work load is exceedingly high and much higher than it was a few years ago. But they don't necessarily understand or know what the residents' priorities and wishes are relating to developments in their own community. And I think that some of the planning considerations do affect some of the communities. For example, Ongar is very different from Nasing or Loughton. And there have been examples of officers' reports recommending approval recently when planning policy was not compliant. For example, recently in the Ongar one, where they had not actually undertaken that the parking standards comply in the Ongar neighbourhood plan region. So what I would recommend or hope will happen is what input will our district councillors and the district officers have in a consultation relating to this proposal. And similarly, that is my first point. And so that really is my comment, because 1.7 says there'll be no mechanism in place to have the Tier A determined at planning committee, and I think that is a very worrying situation. The other thing on point 1.8 is when will we know what the gateway test is relating to Tier B, and will we have any opportunity of saying whether we like the idea of a new category of 10 to 50 dwellings to sit with Tier A. And I have got a few other comments if you're happy for me to take them now.
I think there's quite a few there. So, Laura, would you like? I will come to
The power of technology has let me have some comments from Graham while you've been speaking. So, which is useful. So I'm just nothing but Graham's crooked mouthpiece at this moment. And he has advised that the consultation has taken place and the council responded and raised concerns, and the consultation went through the portfolio holder. He's also said that informally it sounds like we should expect changes to be made before Christmas and national committee structures by May next year. So I think that goes some way to answering the point you've raised. It's very light on detail at this stage, and we won't know the answer to those specific questions you've raised until we hear from them formally. Okay.
Thank you, Laura. That's very helpful. Councillor Keska?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, it's very difficult to say what our response will be until we see the detail. As soon as we do get the detail, we will work out a response from Epping Forest District Council officially, but we can't do that yet.
Councillor Ken Williams.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that it will not be a choice whether we accept these changes, it will be imposed upon us. So it's not whether we like it or not, it's what we have to do.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Amos?
Thank you, Chairman. It obviously makes sense to delay review until we hear what the latest government proposals are. I must admit, when I read the consultative document, I thought, this sounds rather familiar. And obviously, I think, because it's been written largely by the PAS, who wrote the review of our systems here. And can I say on that, when it was first introduced, I thought, I don't know if I like the idea of ward councillors not being able to be on the committees. But I have to say, I've changed my mind. We are able to address the committees. I think that covers all those points. I feel very happy with that. And I can also say, when I'm going round the parish councils, and they've got planning matters, and most of them have, I don't feel as constrained as I used to, because I can express a view without it being saying that I was prejudiced if I went to committee. So in saying that, I welcome this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Amos. And I totally echo your words, what you said. The actual when we had the consultation 9 months ago or 10 months ago, local councillors now have more power now to actually represent their areas because they know them better, and to come to the committees without having to fetter their positions as well. So I think it's a good thing in that sense. Councillor Dadd, I will come back to you with your supplementary question.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to reiterate that I think the new system, only having briefly worked on the old system, that the new system is generally working well for a ward councillor, and also to be able to be involved in pre-application stage and working with officers, and that's been exceedingly, and developers, and that's been exceedingly helpful. We haven't always got what we wanted, but I'm sure that the end result has been a lot better than if we hadn't been able to have an input. What I am wondering, though, is although the recommendation is not to have any review until the new national thing comes out, there are a couple of points that I think would probably be useful to members if we had some more clarification. And that is guidance to ward members on calling in within the 6 weeks of appearing on a weekly list. For example, something came up, I'll quote Ongar again, about a paddle court in a residential area, which we assumed would be refused. It was actually approved. Now, if we had thought that there was a query about that, we might have actually called it in. And I think that that is a question about making a judgment about whether you want it to be discussed, not knowing whether the officer, how they're going to do it, to put that. I don't know if somebody wants to answer me on that. Then I've got another couple of, oh yeah, that's it, I think. But I do say this was an excellent report, and I say that the training that we've had is excellent, and I look forward to the rest of the training. And I would also recommend to councillors that I had been on a PAS training weekend, which was excellent, and also RTPI do free online training for councillors, and I think both of those are invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dadd. I'm not sure whether members in the chamber will answer, whether it's going to be Graham Courtney, put something in response in writing. Councillor Williamson?
I've got a little bit of...
okay, oh, you've got a response.
Yeah, response. So Graham is obviously very active online. He said he may be able to provide some documentation to help with that. And as another point, there is some more training organised just generally, excellent, and that will be appearing in the members' bulletin next week.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Williamson, did you want to? Oh, you're okay. Councillor Kesker.
Only a comment to say that Ongar is doing rather well because we do have an accepted neighbourhood plan.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I found the report very interesting, actually. It's a great report. I just had one question. I realised from this that the internal review will now be deferred until the national schemes and reforms have been decided. Can we have is it possible to get a little bit more colour about what the internal review will try to achieve? I mean, given that there's going to be a fair amount of prescription, I would have thought, from the national review, and what are we trying to achieve with the internal review, and how will it work? Thank you.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. The internal review is to see how the system is working and whether it's working for the council and for members. It was set up based on the PAS recommendations. And as somebody said, the changes that the government are bringing in pretty much mirror where we were, so where we are now, where PAS took us to, which is not surprising. I think the system is working well, but we gave members the opportunity of coming back and see how it's working, and that's really all it is. We will have to take on board the government's changes, whatever they are, whenever they come in, but it's still open for us to interpret that in a way that suits us all. I personally think that the system works well, and as some of you have already pointed out, councillors actually have a better voice now than they had previously. Never mind what's in the media about constitutional vandalism and everything else that people are playing politics with. Planning is not politics. Planning is above politics. Well, below or above politics. And politics has nothing to do with our decisions. And the PAS changes make sure that there is no political influence. Any member voting in this chamber for an application can't have hanging over their heads whether the electorate will vote them in or vote them out for whatever decision they make. And this cuts across all of that. I'm happy with the way things are working, but we certainly will listen to other members' views.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Anybody else? Councillor Bassett.
That's right. That's a trouble sitting here. You don't sort of see me. Yeah. I agree. I think the new systems are working quite well, and I sit on one of the planning committees. But one of the things we're seeing is an awful lot now is being deferred to Met officers. And we're talking here of more being deferred. And I'm wondering what the scrutiny is on those decisions. Because we said we've seen some decisions come out that to us who are local go, never thought that would happen. So I'm just worried about the scrutiny where so much is now going to the officers.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Do we have Mr. Courtney with a magic response or not? Or
I can't see much typing going on from this end, sir.
in which case, any Councillor Kesko, do you want to take that
well,
one?
only to say that, of course, contrary to most public knowledge, most applications went to officers in the past anyway. It's the contentious ones or the larger ones that come to committee. So I do take Councillor Bassett's point, though. If this happens, how do you scrutinise how decisions are made? That we will have to, again, we'll have to wait and see what the government says.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just really going to very briefly echo that. I think it's the point 1.7 that is the major concern. I appreciate we're not going to have any choice on this, but I would be very concerned when there is absolutely no mechanism, either by calling in or by the size of a development in a specific area that we have, that they would just not be allowed to come to committee. I think that does undermine the locals' opinions, and I think it is. I appreciate we're not going to be allowed, we're not going to have any choice in the matter, but it would be useful to see when it does come in, but concerning all the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tom Bromovich.
Thank you, Chairman. I completely echo everything that Councillor Amos said in terms of us being able to represent the views of our area, and echoed by Councillor Williamson. That's why I think this new planning structure, it just allows us to speak a lot more liberally about issues that are affecting our area, and I've noticed a difference in that as well. Sitting on formerly the East Planning Committee and now Planning Committee A. More of a note of feedback, though, that I'd say is because we're talking about, because we're being asked to talk about things that are happening all across the district and not necessarily in just our area now, and at risk of making myself rather unpopular with Councillor Kaufman, who I sit on Planning Committee A with, I just think that a note of feedback would be more site visits would be useful. Because if I'm being asked to talk about something that's happening all the way over in Nazing, for instance, where I'll confess I don't go a lot at all, it would be good to go to the site that we're discussing to actually see it for myself, rather than on the old planning committee. If it was just down the road in Ongar or by Greenstead, I would know that area quite well. So just a general point of feedback, I think it would be quite good to have slightly more site visits to help us make a decision better as a committee.
Thank you, Councillor Bromovich. Okay, so there's two councillors fighting to speak. Councillor Williamson first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Bromwich. I've sat on lots of planning committee meetings over the years, and the new system is absolutely no different to sitting on DDMC. You could have 3 or 4 applications from all over the district. I couldn't put a percentage on it, but I would say that I've visited 90% of the sites that I've made a decision on. And site visits, I agree, are absolutely crucial for somebody to go along. I think the official site visit is only where you cannot see what's actually happening from the road, where it is totally enclosed, you can't get in, you can't see what's going on. And I find them invaluable when I do go on them. I totally agree, they are a good thing. But the majority of our applications are quite easily seen and checked from your own site visit. And I think the committee on their briefing go through carefully which ones do actually need a site visit. And occasionally we change it, but quite often they get the right site visits.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Kesker.
No, I was simply saying that Councillor Williamson wanted to speak on this one, and I will only say that I hope the committee will accept the report.
Thank you. Councillor Kaufman.
Thank you, Chair. At risk of making myself not unpopular, I'll just correct Tom. I'm in favour of as many site visits as possible as we can feasibly do. And I'm just going to not try and shoot too many foxes. They've sort of gone before me with Councillor Dadd and with Councillor Bassett. I'm very, very, very anxious to ensure that as much scrutiny is placed on the officers as possible. I'm not going to mention the case or indeed the officer, but at the last committee, I was blindsided. I mean, I'm the vice chair of that committee, so I sit on the briefing. And we had one application come forward where I believe, and people correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the officer had got it completely wrong in how it was presented to us. There were elements of the site that I think were material, and upon reflection, there should have been a site visit. When you're surprised in the chamber with detail you don't know, it's not right to then be forced to make a decision on it. Should we have deferred it? Possibly. But we just run the risk of making ourselves look a bit silly. I just think we need to have some way of additional checks and balances to make sure the officers who don't all live in the district have produced reports that are factually correct, because I think there are applications coming forwards where there are errors being made either procedurally, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, just in terms of details. I mean, we had Banson's Yard where an application came in, where they were trying to use the precedent set by an application that didn't fit on the original site. And I think that's basic town planning. That was the first thing I was taught at my first day at Howard Sharp and Partners. You put a planning application in, make sure it fits on the blooming site. And I just want to make sure that we have, in this increasingly prescriptive climate, as much defence in place so we can make sure that we don't get poleaxed, steamrolled, boxed into a point where we can't stand up for ourselves. I don't know if Arash has got any other points on any numbers or anything else that I've missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kaufman, for your comments are noted. Okay, Councillor Williamson.
Can I just come back on that, Chair? If those things are, Banson's Yard, I was there at the meeting. I've watched all the other meetings when I'm not sitting on a planning committee. I think it's wrong to bring out generalities into a meeting like this. It should be reported to the officers immediately after the meeting or as soon as you're aware of it. You know, we're just banding around wrong information, blindsided. It's a pretty general sort of discussion. If there is something wrong, it should be reported immediately.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I think Councillor Kaufman, are you going to come
with the
back?
greatest respect, how? We were blindsided with it in the presentation. How can you raise that with the officer after the decision had been made? You don't have that.
Councillor Williamson.
I don't want to get into too much detail here, but if you didn't bring the rest of the committee in with you in the debate, then you lost the argument.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Is there anybody else wishing to speak on this report? No, if not, so we can note the report. Item number, we've now pushed item number 10 ahead, so we are going to be, that's item number 8, but it's actually 10. That makes sense. So the ground maintenance performance report from Qualis is on page 51. And as mentioned at the start of the meeting, we have that item number 10. A grounds maintenance report 51. We have Maria Sarples, Head of Operations from Qualis, with us tonight for this item. But Shane McNamara, our Service Manager, will introduce the report. So over to you, Shane. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, everyone. This is a report about the grounds maintenance service that the Council and Qualis have been working closely on together for a few years now, I think since May 23. So as it's been running for a while, what we're trying to prioritise is continuous improvement. So the ways that we're trying to do that is by developing the staff, by making sure we assess the quality of our work as we're going along, and trying to improve our systems wherever we can. In terms of the challenges that we've faced, seasonal pressures are always something we have to deal with. The demand in the summer months is obviously higher, and any extreme weather can and will disrupt the schedules, so we have to work around that as best as we can. And workforce capacity has been a challenge this year in terms of absence management, some recruitment and retention, and also trying to train digitally as well to, again, going back to that improvement in systems point. In terms of performance itself, I'm going to hand over to Maria, who's going to dazzle you with some figures.
Thank you, Shane. So many of you will recall me being here best part of 12 months ago when we started talking about monitoring performance, and we started doing that at the beginning of the contract, so in May 2023, Shane said, and we've been monitoring that every quarter thereon, and then comparing, because it's a grounds maintenance and the different services you provide during different months, we are starting to monitor and report against the same period of the previous year. So you'll see on one of the slides, the performance slide, where we talk about performance around grass cutting, hedge maintenance and overall satisfaction. And it's really positive to see that actually quarter on quarter, that's been increasing since May 2023. So, for example, just a couple of headlines. In quarter one, between quarter one last year and this year, there's been a 14% improvement on satisfaction, and the same for hedges. There was a 12%, and overall 14% increase. So if we continue to do this monitoring, we can come to you and we'll be able to say we can split it by areas. So we can look at very specific areas in the borough, so Nazing, Ongar, Waltham Abbey, and we can see, really drill down into individual comments, and then we can focus our time on those areas where maybe satisfaction is a bit lower. We have a really strong relationship with EFDC and with members, and we put together back in May 23 joint inspections, and they're really well attended both by our sales partners and councillors. And I think what that has enabled us to do is pick up on the things that are really important to you and your community. So things that we may not see when we're monitoring performance on a piece of paper or when we're going out and doing inspections, but really understanding what's important to you. And I think actually sometimes, you know, the concern that may drop off over time has actually, the complete opposite has happened. Actually, we get more members attending, which is brilliant. So we're really pleased about that. Oh, sorry. The other thing that Shane touched on is about quality. So yes, customer satisfaction is really important, but it's understanding what is important to the residents of Epping. So one of the big things that we have focused on over the last 6 months is trying to digitalise the service. And what that is enabling us to do is for us to be able to see when something's been completed. So down to something as simple as a piece of grass being cut, a job gets closed digitally, we know it's been completed, and then any concerns that a resident will have, we can look on the system and we can actually say, I now know when that gardener's been out, what they've done, when they've done it. It's got a picture attached, and we can share that level of information with residents, which is really promising. So we're in testing stage at the moment. We're hoping over the next 4 weeks that will go live. We can also then drill out individual performance data. So we will be able to say, even without doing an inspection, a photograph would drop into the system and we would be able to say, that's a brilliant piece of work, or equally, you know what, you need to go back out. That's not quite to the standard that we expect. We have a very clear standard. So we have, we grade our performance A to D. And our target is that everything is either an A or B standard. And what we found is that majority, so 95% of all of our grass cutting and hedge maintenance at the moment is coming in at an A and a B, and that is taken from both our supervisors' inspections that they go out alone, but equally our joint inspections with EFDC and with yourselves, which is really promising. That's not to say there's never a time when we've got to go back and rectify something, because that will always be the case. But at the moment we are 95% meeting our target, which is really pleasing. Kind of developing our people is also equally important. So Shane touched on some of the challenges, and recruitment in this service is often a challenge, especially this time of year when the nights and days are drawing in and it's a bit chillier out there, and it's how you encourage people that being a gardener is an exciting role. So we've always got a recruitment challenge. But equally what's important is about retention, so it's keeping our people and upskilling them and making sure that they are trained properly, and we're doing a lot of investment in that. We have got an apprentice who has been with us now for near on 18 months. She is about to finish an apprenticeship. She will remain in post, not as an apprentice, but as a qualified gardener when she's finished. And then we'll start the process again to get another apprentice. And that has been really rewarding. She's been able to bring in fresh ideas, things around sustainability that perhaps we hadn't thought about. So that again is really pleasing. I'm going to stop there because I think I can probably hand over to questions.
Thank you. Members.
Yes, who?
Councillor Dadd.
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to actually thank Quality and the FDC grounds maintenance team. I have been on every opportunity to accompany them, and I have to say that I do think that they are working really well, but also I have noticed the improvements from last year, and their understanding also about, when I first came on the council, I had quite a lot of complaints about overgrown hedges, etc., etc. The complaints now relate more to highways things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you. Yeah, much like Councillor Dadd, I've been on all but one of them, and I absolutely love those tours. I think they're really, really good. Just two questions about the actual data. How is this the customer satisfaction being collected? Is it online? Is it acceptable to people who aren't necessarily online as well? And is there currently, or do you plan for there to be a ward breakdown of satisfaction for the services? Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a really good question. So it's done quarterly, and it's done via something similar to SurveyMonkey. So we send out an email survey to what I must say, it's HRA residents only, because that's the data that we hold. So we can't send out to the whole district because obviously we don't have that data. We can drill down by ward, so as long as the customer responding to that survey has told us, we do ask that question where they live, so as long as they've told us that, we can drill down by ward, and actually we look at that data, so we can look at, you know, some of the wards that maybe people are less satisfied, and why, so are there themes and trends, so we can pick up on that. What we're hoping to do, and it's a bit early days, but what we're hoping to do once we are fully digitalised is once something has been cut or maintained, and that job is closed on the system, we can send out a survey to the people that live there and then, because then it's more real, it's in real time. We often talk about do our customers know what we're referring to when we say about the grass cutting? So are they aware of it's this bit and not that bit, or that's highways? Or so I think there's always a bit of confusion around that. So I think if we can really drill down to those local areas in real time, that would give us a much clearer understanding of how satisfied people are.
Thank you, Maria. Councillor Murray, online.
Thank you, Chairman. This was one of the items I wanted to join the meeting for. I've got 2 questions and then 2 comments. If I'd ask the 2 questions first and hear the answer and then make my 2 comments. We've had quite precise figures on satisfaction. Unless it's commercially sensitive, could I have, or could we hear the exact figure as regards the vacancies that are being carried at the moment? And then the other question I've got, and I'm sure it happens in other areas, but we've got a location in my ward where unfortunately a lot of rubbish is tipped and thrown. A lot of it is caused by, I think, cars that pull up there and just throw stuff. So my precise question around that is, once shrub bed is cut back and that litter is then accessible, is it part of policy's job, or is it environmental services that would then litter pick an area that has had a hedge cut back? So those are my 2 questions, and then I've got a couple of points, please, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Maria, you want to take those?
Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Murray. So we are holding 1 vacancy at the moment for a supervisor, which has been vacant for a couple of months. And we have no current vacancies for gardeners. However, we have got a couple of people off for various other reasons, but not carrying vacancies. In terms of the hedge, shrubs and rubbish in particular, it's a really good question. So what I will say is we litter pick whatever area we are maintaining. So if we are maintaining that shrub bed, it is our responsibility to litter pick. But what we won't do is litter pick constantly in that area unless we're maintaining that shrub bed at the time. Does that answer your...
That's helpful, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
And Councillor Murray, and your supplementary comments, yeah?
Yeah, my 2 comments, please, and they are very positive. I'm still not convinced that I'm particularly happy that grounds maintenance transferred to police, though they are improving, because I thought it was a jewel in the crown of EFDC direct provision. But it's happened, and it happened 2 years ago. So I'm really glad that the service from Qualis is improving. I would echo the comments that are being made about site visits, because it isn't just a site visit with a officer from Qualis. It obviously also involves an EFDC contract monitoring officer. So they're really positive. Roding Ward is very largely part of the former GLC Council estate in Depton, and we've got an awful lot of small grass areas and shrub beds that Qualis maintain. So that was 1 positive comment. The second positive comment is relatively hot off the press, and it was only made public last week, and it does involve Qualis, not acting on behalf of EFDC, but I did just want to share this really good news. Loughton Town Council manage the largest green space in the district. That's the Roding Valley Recreation Ground, which is the bulk of it is within the parish of Loughton. We maintain that, and we employ Qualis as our grounds maintenance team. And last week we were represented at the Essex Plainfields Association Awards 2025, and I thought members would like to know that we won the prize in category 1 for the best playing field serving communities of more than 2,500 residents, and we got a gold certificate for that. And I just wanted to acknowledge the part that Qualis played in that. Obviously, the Town Council has park wardens and other staff that also manage that area, but Qualis are our main contractors, and I thought it was a reasonable thing to do tonight to acknowledge their part in that successful award that we got last week.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor, and our congratulations as well to both sides of the team. Thank you. Councillor Bassett, and I'll conclude.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, just a couple of little things. One of the things I did find was very useful was there's always the argument as to who's maintaining this, which goes on, and I've seen the things, it has made it a lot easier, because when people come up and say, you haven't done this, and I say, well, it's nothing to do with us, and I can point them to his, or I'll forward it on, and I've found that most useful. And the second thing is climate change. We are seeing where a lot of the flower beds are suffering from little or no water or the excessive heat. Are we changing how we maintain them? Because I know it sounds funny, but are we actually watering them to try to keep them going? If you look at my back garden, it looks like a desert.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Maria, you want to answer that one?
It's a really common question, and if I'm very honest, it's not something I've got a very clear answer for. We do talk about, actually, have we got the seasons right? Because seasonally, the way we deliver the service is probably the same way in terms of what we call spring, summer, autumn, winter than it was back in the 70s and 80s. And actually, you're right, the climates have changed so much that, you know, on paper, we should stop mowing, for example, in October. Well, we can't stop mowing in October because of the season, so we carry on very often until early December. But it is something we do need to sit down and have a look at in terms of, is the contract right in terms of how we deliver and what we deliver in those seasons, and actually are the seasons themselves right? So it's a very sensible question in terms of, but I don't have the very precise answer for you at the moment. I hope to, in the not so near future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria. I just want to say the visits that do take place, I've been on those visits as well. It's a learning curve for councillors as well, because like Councillor Bassett just mentioned, some areas we don't know who's responsible. Is it Essex County? Is it parish? Is it district? And is it Qualis? And we get to find out certain areas are whose responsibility. So for us as councillors, it's a learning curve. And I just wanted to also mention, it's really encouraging to note that we're actually promoting homegrown talent as well, our apprenticeships as well. And I know that's been some really good success stories with some of our apprentices, especially in ICT department as well. I'm looking to my right as well, the young man there. Thank you. Right, members, Councillor Bromwich.
Sorry, just one more point about both of your points about responsibility for various things, who runs what. I was given this really great map. Yes. I don't know if everyone else probably was as well. It is really, really good, and I've praised the officers that at Qualis who gave that to me, because it was brilliant. But I was wondering, when you were talking about digitisation and making the platform a lot more interactive and modern, is there any plan to make these maps, bringing them onto the digital space? Because, for instance, one of my ward colleagues, Councillor Burrows, didn't have one, so I photocopied it and gave some copies to him. It would have been really useful if I was able to say, oh yeah, just log on to this portal, for instance, and have a look at who's responsible for what. I know it's probably a heck of a lot of work for you, but it would be very, very useful for us. Thank you.
So those maps are printed off of a system called Confirm, which is the system that we use to manage the grounds. And the reason I think that you have them in a paper format is because they're licensed. So Confirm is owned and licensed by EFDC, and then we use it for grounds maintenance. So it's not just a grounds maintenance. I think you use it for trees and various other aspects of EFDC. So it is digitalised. How we could I'm not sure how you would be able to see it in a digitalised format without having individual licences. So I think it's more of a technical issue rather than not having it. What we can do though is now we can update those maps. So that's quite new for Quality. We've now been able to put new plots on, take things off as and when they come on and off. So we can manage it much better now.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, Tom. Councillor Bromwich, I've got one of those as well. Thank you. Okay, members, this report is for noting. So we made our comments. Can we note this report? Noted. Noted. Thank you very much. Next item is recycling blue lid. Sorry, you're welcome to leave. Thank you. Okay, members, item number, recycling the blue-lidded wheeled bin implementation update, pages 22 to 23. I'm going to invite James Warwick. Can you please introduce the recycling update, please, on the pages 22 of the agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report that you have in front of you tonight is to consider the update report on the implementation of the blue-lidded wheeled bin for recycling collections. Pleased to say this has now been successfully implemented. So anyone that's not aware, Cabinet approved to discontinue the use of single-use clear plastic recycling sacks and blue boxes for glass and issue a 240-litre blue-lidded standard wheel bin for recycling. So this delivery began in June of this year to residents, and a total of 47,307 wheeled bins were successfully delivered to residents. The project kind of was managed between EFDC's waste management team in partnership with TVS. We had TVS operatives supporting the delivery company of the wheeled bins to residents. They weren't there as an extra pair of hands to help out. They were there to help out with any of the more tricky deliveries, kind of more rural locations. So we were using their knowledge of where the properties are. Part of this, we think, meant that there wasn't a huge amount of missed bin deliveries. So as you'll see in the report, only 3.2% of the total bins delivered were missed, and wherever they were missed, we tried to rectify as quickly as possible. Throughout the period, we received 266 requests for larger wheeled bin for recycling, 549 requests for an additional wheeled bin, and then 77 requests for smaller wheeled bins, and all of those requests have been implemented. We did have a period where, obviously, because of some of the missed deliveries, where people were still had to present their recycling in the sacks. So we had a period of grace where we were still collecting the recycling sacks. That's all been dealt with now, and it's successfully kind of bedded down and implemented. We are collecting cardboard as if it is flattened and placed beside the recycling bin. The report, at the time of writing the report, we hadn't met, but it referenced that we were having a meeting with EFDC officers and TVS to discuss the project, discuss kind of what went well, what didn't go so well, what improvements can be made. We had a very constructive and positive session. A full kind of project closure report is currently being produced based on that. And the main the main thing that we kind of want to take away, where in terms of the improvements, we can take that forward for future projects, but especially in terms of the separation of food and garden, there's a few kind of lessons learned that we can take into hopefully improve the service delivery and the rollout of future projects. And I suppose most importantly, the project was delivered on budget or within budget. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick. Any questions from members? Councillor Morris and then Councillor Dadd.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I can see that the project is successful in terms of its rollout, but it had some objectives to achieve, didn't it, as an overall change in the way recycling is collected. I know one of them was that it would be more efficient to collect it in that way, and also there would be improvements to health and safety for the operatives for carrying out the collection. Can you sort of give us an overview of how well you think, what the objectives of the project initially were and whether they've all been achieved?
As we have Rosa here from TVS, would you mind answering that?
Okay, so yeah, good evening. In terms of efficiencies, we're still, I'll talk about it later on in my agenda item, but we are planning to undertake a route optimisation exercise. Part of that was already done this year, but we want to do further work this side of Christmas, and we know that that will generate much more improved efficiencies. Since the company has been set up and the site has been relocated, we've continued with the same routes because that ensures that we maintain service delivery for residents. There's no change to collection days or disruption, and our crews know those routes really well. But because the location, the start location and the end location is in a different place, it becomes inefficient. So combined with the introduction of the blue wheeled bins, we want to undertake that route review this side of Christmas, and those efficiencies will definitely come through from that. In terms of health and safety, we have a really strong health and safety culture within TVS, and there are improvements we are now seeing after the rollout. Now, bear in mind that, as James has mentioned, there was a period of time where we were collecting both sacks and wheeled bins, and it becomes quite challenging to identify any of those improvements. And because of some of the pressures around the routes, we're now starting to see that settle down, and in terms of health and safety, that is now improving. And of course, we had summer as well, so changes in staffing level has an impact on that performance too. Okay.
Thank you. James, was that your report concluded? I've got Councillor Dadd next.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of questions, please. First of all, relating to the total number of 18 residents applied for exemption and only 2 were granted. I wonder if you could explain what the reason was for refusal for the 16. Then I've got another couple of questions. Thank you.
James. Mr. James.
The simple answer, they didn't meet the exemption policy criteria, and that for whatever reason. There's, I think it was when these reports went through scrutiny, there was the exemption policy was shared then. There's various criteria to meet in order to be exempt from a wheeled bin, and only 2 of them met that criteria.
Councillor Dadd, next question.
Well, I recall on scrutiny that we asked for the exemption policy to be reviewed with the blue bins, but I can't recall seeing how that was applied. What I was particularly concerned about is, for example, conservation areas like Chipping-Ongar High Street, which I've had a lot of complaints about. Manor Square, near Essex House, near along there, where very nice listed buildings have got a very small front garden and virtually no back garden, and certainly no room for a wheeled bin. And, you know, I know that they are still have not had exemptions. I'm wondering whether you would consider looking at whether we can have, as part of Hertfordshire, some place in Hertfordshire to have, in a conservation area like Chipping-Ongar High Street, they can't have the blue bins, or other bins actually, on the front, spoiling the street scene. Whether you could take that away to review that, please. And then I've got another one back.
Mr. Warwick?
Yeah, we're happy to take that away, and officers can review kind of the implications for conservation areas, and we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
And the last...
Dad, I'm conscious of other people need to speak.
It's one very last one, is that you say that everybody has had it. I have actually personally written, and I know that our MP has not got his blue bin yet. And I've had put that in writing. Do I do it again?
If you wouldn't mind doing it again, but send it to me, and I'll make sure that it's delivered.
Thank you, Councillor Dad. I thought Mr. Warwick was going to say, see me after the meeting. Stay behind. Councillor Balcom.
The one thing I would like to say about this whole operation, actually, I think the one thing it does prove, and to go to one of Chris's favourite sayings, the Epping Forest family, it just shows that having TVS as part of EFDC, how this has worked so successfully.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for your comments, Councillor Balcom. We've got Councillor Murray online. Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. And this isn't a criticism, but I'm sure the MP will be getting his blue bin pretty quick after tonight's meeting. That wasn't the comment I was going to make, obviously, because I didn't know that was the case. I wanted to be congratulatory overall, and it's been a big improvement. I mean, we go down roads and we don't have the recycling litter everywhere. Could I ask, please, specifically, if it isn't being taken on board, as part of the review, could the officers look at how it was implemented on the Oakwood Hill estate? Within my ward. It's 500 properties. They weren't all affected, but there was a lot of flats that weren't able to have blue bins because they're flats in really big blocks and don't have areas for blue bins. And there was just an assumption made that there were designated recycling areas on the estate in existence. Well, there wasn't. There was clearly a breakdown of communication between waste services and housing services on that issue, and it took quite a few weeks to sort it out. So in part of the review, could we use that as something that we learn for the future? And I'm sure it probably happened elsewhere in the district. And the other thing I am concerned about, and again, I'm sure this is happening in other parts of the district, and I don't think it's just laziness on behalf of leaseholders and tenants. I could take officers to quite a few roads in my ward that have these traditional four flats blocks, and they run, you know, a large section of the road, and there literally is very little place for them to put their extra bin because of the slope of the gardens down into the building. They can't really put them there. So what we've now got is a row of bins of all different colours along large sections of the public pavement that stay out now 24/7. And I wondered what the approach was to that problem, and I'm sure there must be areas in the rest of the district. And the final thing I wanted to say was another positive comment. I'm always around when my blue bin men come, and the green men, and the, not green men, green bins, and what a wonderful group of people they are. Always have a chat, always, they're fantastic. But those two questions, please. Oakwood Hill Estate, are we going to learn about that rollout? Because there was obviously a lack of communication with housing services. And what about the situation where we now have, you know, not a large number, but a fair number of pavements where we just have the bins out 24/7. And as I say, I don't think the leaseholders or tenants have a great deal of choice over that.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Mr James? Warwick?
Thank you, Councillor Murray, for your kind words. And I am aware of the issues with Oakwood Hill and was having a conversation with David Marsh about that yesterday, and Rosa and I picked up a conversation this afternoon before this meeting. It's an area of work that EFDC and TVS want to focus on. It is not, unfortunately, it's not unique to Oakwood Hill. There is a challenge with flats and communal properties in terms of having sufficient bin space for all the different bins, having room for the recycling. There are, in certain areas, there's high levels of contamination as well, which then sometimes, if the collections do not take place, it can lead to fly tipping. So there's a whole host of issues that we're going to work together to try and address. Obviously, where they are EFDC housing, we'll work with housing colleagues. Sometimes it is a little bit more challenging when they're private managing agents and landlords. We can kind of put as much pressure on as possible and advise on that, but certainly we will. It is an area of work that we will focus on and hopefully improve.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Warwick. Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. This is a very simple one. We were getting round about the 60% recycling rate. Have we seen any drop off in that or any improvement?
Mr Warwick.
It's a little bit too soon to see at the moment. I think so where are we? We're Q2 for this year. It's around 57%, which it has been. It's kind of been hovering around that. But I think over time, and that again, kind of, as I've mentioned, some of the contamination issues, but yeah, it's an area that we know we need to improve, and we want to be kind of more proactive in terms of helping people to recycle easier.
Thank you, Mr Warwick. Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, a question. In Thornwood, we had one road had a duplicate delivery of blue bins. Is there any sort of, have you got any data on how, across the district, how many duplicate deliveries of blue bins there were and whether they've all been collected? But then secondly, a comment, just echoing the what Councillor Murray was saying. I think this hasn't been a perfect rollout, nothing that's going to be so consequential to the way we do waste in this district is going to be. But James, I think that the way that you and your team have dealt with it, and you, Ray, as well, I think has been really outstanding in terms of responsiveness. I've gone to Councillor Balcombe about issues, one issue with one lady in North Weald not getting a bin. She had a bin the next day. And it's that real hands-on attitude and approach that I think residents are noticing. We're certainly noticing here. And I think that needs to be commended and highlighted and celebrated. So well done all round to all of you.
Thank you, Councillor Bromwich. Mr Warwick.
Yeah, thank you. And as Councillor Balcombe said, a large part of that helps with the close relationship with TVS, and that we pass on that request. It's TVS that would have made then that subsequent bin delivery. I don't have the answer in terms of how many duplicates were delivered across the district. I can take that away and see if we have that information. I don't also know if they were if those that got two. I suspect they wasn't collected, and residents have 2 wheeled bins.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick. Sorry, 1 minute.
James, I think that problem, if I remember, was that both sides of the road were all delivered on one side, and it was something like the odd or the even numbers never got them. So that was what was sussed, and then they put them over to the other side in the end. So it was just where they were put, really.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, James, coming back.
Malcolm, sorry, Rosso, do you want to come in?
Yeah, so just to come on, just to add to those points, in the lessons learned exercise that we've done in terms of the project debrief, scheduling and identifying routes was one of the areas that we think we can make an improvement on to kind of reduce those risk of that happening in the future, where you've got exceptionally long streets or a combination of different streets, and how do we make sure that we do it in one go rather than separate, where you may get some duplication. So just wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. And I just wanted to note the delivery of the bins, etc. It's always going to be a big task for the whole district. And I do agree with Councillor Bromwich as well. The way you've handled with any sort of mishaps has been it's been excellent. I have had a lot of feedback from my road in Chigwell, and especially the residents as well. It's so much easier to see what bin you're going to put out on Friday, because either it's a blue bin, blue lid, or it's going to be the black one, because the green one goes out every day. And I've learned that as well, so there you go. At last. And also, obviously, the foxes and all that, tearing away the bags. It's a success story. So well done, everybody involved. Members, anybody else wishing to speak? Otherwise, I can move on to the next item, last item of the agenda.
Sorry, Will.
Councillor Kaufman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a high-speed question from outside the room, which is to do with the higher capacity blue bins. Is there a shortage of them? Do you know? When they'll be rolled out? I think it's specifically with the flat blocks.
There was a shortage of the larger blue-lidded wheeled bin, the 340 litres. I don't think we didn't anticipate we'd get so many requests for larger size bins, especially as a lot of the noise before was residents didn't have room for a wheeled bin. So there was a delay. We were dealing with, as far as I know, we've dealt with all the outstanding requests, and a delivery came in. I think we may still be expecting a few more of those large bins. I can take that away. But if it's the larger ones for communal properties, I can check on that as well and get back to you.
Is it okay if I direct the councillor to you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In which case, members, we will go on to the next, or the last item to be considered tonight is the TVS operational update on page 24 of the agenda. I'd like to welcome Rosa Tanfield again, and she's the Managing Director of TVS. And of course, James will introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you. So the report is to consider the operational overview of Terra Verde Services. Rosa's here that will talk you through. So the report kind of provides an operational overview since its launch in November 24 up to August 25. So, Rosa.
Thank you, James. So, yes, good evening, everyone. So, properly introducing myself, my name is Rosa Tanfield. I am the Managing Director for Terra Verde Services, or TVS. And I joined the company only 4 months ago, so back in the middle of June 2025. That was some 8 months after the launch of TVS back in November. And I joined after being on the board of the directors as a non-executive director, and after leaving Colchester City Council, where I'd held my position there as Head of Neighbourhood Services, managing their waste and street cleansing services. So very familiar coming to the other side of Essex, but obviously managing the company for Epping Forest. And I'm really honoured this evening to be able to join you and provide you with your first operational update report as we reach the first anniversary of TVS in only a couple of months. So firstly, just a bit about TVS and the relationship and the roles and responsibilities it has with the council. So TVS is a company that's wholly owned by EFDC, which means that the council owns 100% of the shares. Now, as a result, we work really closely and are really aligned to the council. So, for example, our values are those that are held by EFDC as well. And much of the work that we do, as already explained this evening, is intrinsically linked to the work that we do with teams across the whole of the council, as well as Qualis. So what do we do? Well, street cleansing is one of our key functions, so things like litter picking, emptying bins, weed removal, fly tipping clearances, fly tipping clearances, and making special household collections as well. Our other area of focus is recycling and waste collections, so collecting from all of the households across Epping Forest and some of the businesses as well throughout the whole entire year. And TVS exists to do three key things. Firstly is about delivering high quality services to the residents of Epping Forest. Two is about delivering value for money services and returning or reinvesting financial surpluses back into the services that it provides. And thirdly, ensuring that Epping Forest District Council's statutory obligations are fulfilled. So through all of this, TVS ensures that the important frontline services that we're talking about, they work efficiently, safely, and with a focus on community impact. So, first year achievements. As I've mentioned, I'm really pleased to talk to you about this first year. In less than a year, we've delivered measurable results. 140 staff transferred seamlessly from the previous incumbent into the new company, and there's been no service disruptions throughout that process. 470,000 collections are made every single month, and we've maintained a 99.9% collection rate. Missed collection complaints are down by 22% and compliments up by 50%. Our current unaudited accounts suggest that we have generated a financial surplus in the first 5 months, which took us up to the end of that financial year. And we are looking to also return some of the start-up funding that was invested by EFDC in setting up TVS. And we're continuing to invest in things like new street cleaning equipment, etc., which are all set out in the report. Now, these achievements show strong operational delivery and a solid foundation for continuous improvement. So our current focus is delivering reliable services every day while preparing for seasonal and strategic challenges and changes. Operationally, as I said, we complete 470,000 collections every month from households, and we've maintained a really high level of 99.9% collections. And we clear between 70 and 90 fly tips every week. We've supported EFDC in the rollout of the blue-lidded bins, as said, and we'll continue to support the rollout of food and garden waste separation. We're reviewing our routes, we're reviewing our risk assessments, and we're going to be training to ensure there's a really smooth transition to that future new service. We're also looking forward to moving into the new operations hub in the next few weeks. In terms of seasonal priorities as we enter into autumn is leaf fall management. EFDC's invested in an additional road sweeper for autumn, and TVS are deploying new leaf blowers to help improve clearance. Weed management is very challenging this year, and TVS again has been working with EFDC and also Qualis to coordinate weed spraying and following that up with mechanical sweeping. And EFDC have also invested in a weed ripper to tackle hard-to-reach areas. We're also collaborating with the Council to redesign the fly tipping process, aiming for faster clearances and better coordination. Behind the scenes, our support services help keep everything running as well. We've got a very small team of 3 people who manage our HR, payroll, finances and compliance. We have support through AFDC and their ICT, and we have specialist software that enable us to manage our routes in real time and undertake waste analysis. Fleet maintenance is managed through EFDC's contract with Specialist Fleet Services, and there's an image on the screen of the new transport hub which they're now operating from. Health and safety and HR advice comes from national specialists to ensure high quality compliance and best practice. So these priorities and the support structures that I've talked about all ensure that TVS remains agile, efficient and ready for seasonal and strategic challenges as well. Now, our workforce is the backbone of TVS, whether they're green or blue, as mentioned earlier, and we focused on stability, wellbeing and development from day one. At launch, we successfully transferred over 140 staff into the company, as I said, with no service disruption. We've maintained low turnover and minimal absence. Engagement with the union has been strong. We have a formal recognition agreement in place and have regular meetings to maintain positive relationships with them. Wellbeing initiatives for the staff include access to an employee assistance programme, GP service and lifestyle benefits alongside structured training, and we're also investing in leadership development for managers and supervisors. On safety, we've embedded a proactive culture. We have a dedicated health and safety specialist in place. We have a comprehensive induction and ongoing toolbox talk programme, and onboard CCTV monitoring on all of our refuse collection vehicles. We also undertake weekly and monthly inspection audits as well. The image on the right-hand side of the screen is the CCTV image that gives you a feel for what it looks like. But bear in mind that we do have cameras throughout the whole vehicle 360. We've also responded to a couple of incidences, unfortunately, that have happened on the front line, and we've worked with Essex Police where necessary, and we've been supporting our staff through additional training around conflict management, and we'll be working with the council on how we can educate the public around the dangers of some of our frontline staff work. Workforce resilience and safety aren't just compliance for us, they are core to how we operate. So there is lots of change afoot. The waste and recycling sector alone is evolving rapidly, and TVS is positioning itself to stay ahead. So national reforms under the Environment Act and the collection and packaging reforms will see standardised recycling, the introduction of extended producer responsibility, and the deposit return schemes. Locally, we're preparing for local government reorganisation, which could reshape service models going forward. And workforce legislation is also changing. So the Employment Rights Bill introduces day one rights, expanded family leave and stricter redundancy rules. So our response to this is being strategic. We have prepared a new business plan taking us from 2026 to 2028, and that's focusing on service quality, financial sustainability, statutory compliance and community engagement. We're using technology and data analytics to improve efficiency and transparency. We're building workforce resilience through training, succession planning and wellbeing initiatives, and we're continuing to strengthen our partnerships, not just with EFDC, but also Qualis, as I mentioned. And our goal is clear: to remain a trusted, agile and innovative service provider that delivers value for residents and supports the Council's long-term objectives. So just to summarise, in under a year, TVS has gone from concept to a fully operational service provider, delivering for residents every single day. We've achieved stability, improved service quality and demonstrated strong financial management. Our workforce is engaged, our safety culture is embedded, and our partnership with EFDC is delivering tangible results. Looking ahead, we're ready for change, whether that's national reforms, local government reorganisation or evolving community needs. Our focus is clear. It's about service excellence, financial stability and continuous improvement, and we just look forward to continuing to support EFDC throughout all of that, delivering essential services and being future ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Rossa. Members, do we have questions or comments? Any first members of the committee? Councillor Dadd.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much for such an excellent report. And I have to say that as a ward councillor, I've really noticed the difference. And your staff are very polite, very welcoming, I think, really, but very efficient as well. Very sad to see that some were, and we had seen it earlier in the news, some were assaulted, and I hope that's not going to continue. I have got one question, and I think it's one that is big. It's shown a big difference in how you started clearing the weeds since TVS has come on board. But well-established weed killing, are you prepared? I see that you're going to bring forward the weed killing period next year to June, but in view of some of these sort of more difficult areas, are you also considering more than once a year? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Mr. Warwick, you want to take that one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Unfortunately. TVS don't do the weed spraying. But obviously we're working very closely with them. And moving forwards, we hope to improve kind of on the current situation with it. It's a long rehearsed story really with weed spraying. We receive funding from Essex County Council. The funding should cover 2 weed sprays a year. It doesn't. I think we get still £30,000 a year. The cheapest quote we received this year for 1 weed spray is £24,000. So I think the company are carrying that out in November, and we are looking at. We're still chasing a response from Essex County Council in terms of we've provided them with all the figures, all the quotes to say, look, here's the evidence. It's not enough. And we're still chasing a response. I have got a Teams call tomorrow with Essex County Council on a separate waste matter, but I will raise it with them to see what's going on. So at the moment, as Rose has said, we will be carrying out a weed spray. We're looking at improvement options of what we can do in future years. We've also invested in the machinery that Rose has mentioned, and TVS are in conversations with Qualis and ground maintenance to see how can we kind of work up closer and have economies of scale so we can do it. Unfortunately, yeah, it's an ongoing problem that we're still trying to tackle.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. A few comments and then a question, so I'll finish with the question. The officer's been talking about weeds, and I understand the point is made. They are disgraceful in the urban area. I mean, I can only talk about the ward I walk all the time and other parts in Loughton. It's a disgrace. It really is appalling. And we can't have that situation continue. I do find it difficult to understand how we're not getting a response from Essex County Council when the leader of EFDC is the Chancellor of It's not a title I've given him. He is the Chancellor of Essex. So the EFDC is the Chancellor of Essex. So perhaps he can talk to both sides of his role and we might get something there. I read the report really, really carefully and I thought it was fantastic. But I have to say the bit I enjoyed reading the most was 7.3. And if members don't have that automatically in front of them, it is a single sentence. TVS Limited has signed a formal union recognition agreement with the GMB union and regular meetings are held. And that, me as a proud trade unionist for nearly 50 years, that was music to my ears. And I'm tempted to say Qualis follow this example, because I feel it's appalling, personally, that Qualis, an arm's length company of EFDC, has made a deliberate decision not to recognise trade unions. So well done, TVS. I think the package that you've referenced and is in more detail in 7.4 is excellent as well, because the workforce do a really hard job. I'm sure they sometimes have a little bit of a rest and fish and chips around the district, but they work really hard in all weathers, and I certainly wouldn't want to do it. My question is, and I realise that local government reform might influence this, but once TVS is up and running and on a secure footing, which I think it is anyway, is there any intention to seek contracts elsewhere in the local area? I mean, obviously outside of the district, I would think, but is that kind of in any long-term thinking? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I hope, Rossa, you would like that one? Thank you.
Yes, if I can. Thank you. So thank you for your comments, Councillor Murray. I will just pick up on your last question in terms of intentions to seek additional work and contracts. The business plan that I mentioned is coming to Cabinet next month, and that sets out a plan for the next few years that takes us up to 2028, which is just ahead of LGR. I felt it wasn't quite appropriate to be pushing beyond that because we don't quite know what it will look like at that point. And as I said, there's some very clear intention in that plan. It's about service delivery excellence, because that is why TVS is here, is about making sure that the services, core services that EFDC is responsible for, we are delivering as well as we possibly can. So building that, continuing to build that foundation and building a really strong reputation. And there is the opportunity to kind of start looking at extending or developing our services, but our focus really needs to be on making sure that we're delivering the core services as best we can, as efficiently and effectively as possible. But we will continue to always look at what other opportunities there are, definitely not a closed door, and as I said, we're looking at what we can do within the regulations and the remit which is within Epping Forest.
Thank you, Rossa. Thank you. Can I move, Councillor Bassett, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's some of the points covered, but this is just one thing at the bottom of page 35. It's not so much to do with TVS, it's more EFDC on route optimisation. It says there that they were impacted because 3,500 additional properties were not reflected in the original plan. Obviously, these are most probably new builds and that have come into it. Have we got a proper linkage from planning and building back into TVS? Because if you don't know about it, it's hard to optimise the route.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Rossa?
Yeah, so the modelling that we did originally was done much earlier in the year, I think around sort of March, April time. We had planned, as I said, to introduce those new routes routes in July, but with the blue bin rollout, we felt it would be too much operationally for us to make all of those changes. So we postponed it to September, but then looked at the baseline data and saw that these additional properties were on board, and there was such a discrepancy between that base data back in March, April time to September that it wouldn't be appropriate for us to be rolling that those new routes out, because we may end up in the same position. But to assure you, new properties that they come on online, there is a very close link between our systems, because the back office system that we use is owned and contracted through EFDC, so we work really closely to make sure all properties come on board. But that, as I said, that base model, the base data modelling that we did, there was quite a discrepancy to where we were, so we need to update that and then reassess those routes and then roll that out going forward.
Thank you, Rosa. I just wanted to add, echo what most members have been saying here about the service that's been delivered at the moment. It really is, it's really a good service. I, for one, can't thank the staff and that you employ. They're very friendly, and the most important thing is their timings. They're there when those sort of times are now being embedded now, so you know your bins are going to be collected between that period, and it's really good. Rossa, thank you very much for your detailed report, and thank you to Mr. Warwick for the answers as well. If any members got any other further questions, you can always email Mr. Warwick or Rossa as well. With that, I believe we've come to the end of our business for the day. Dates for future meetings. Can members note that our next meeting will be held at 7 p.m. on the 27th of January 2026, and it will be chaired by, hopefully, Councillor Joseph Parsons. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I formally close the meeting.
Say Happy Christmas.
No, I'm not.